Moving to the cloud is about so much more than just changing where your applications live. If you really want to unlock its true power, you have to go way beyond a simple lift and shift. It takes a pretty fundamental change in how you think about building software. And today, that's exactly what we're going to break down, that big mindset shift. So I want you to think about this question for a second. For years, we built our on-premise infrastructure like a fortress, right? Strong, secure, super permanent. But here's the catch. That strength often turns into rigidity. It can actually become a cage that holds you back, limiting your ability to scale, to innovate, and to move fast. The cloud? Well, that's your way out of the cage. So, first up, let's dive into the most foundational difference there is, that massive shift from thinking about fixed, permanent resources to flexible, on-demand ones. This really highlights the core difference. It's guessing versus knowing. In the old world, you had to take a wild guess at your peak traffic and buy a ton of servers to handle it. You were either wasting money on machines that were just sitting there idle, or even worse, your site crashed because you guessed too low. The cloud just flips this whole idea on its head. You get exactly what you need, right when you need it, and this is the best part, you only pay for what you actually use. And this brings us to a really crucial concept, treating your IT assets as provisioned resources. Think of them as temporary, disposable even. And that's not a bad thing. No, it's actually incredibly empowering. It just dramatically lowers the cost and the risk of trying new things. You can spin up a whole environment to test some crazy idea and then just tear it all down an hour later. This is what lets you fail fast and iterate quickly. It's a total game changer. Okay, so all that flexibility we just talked about, that's the bedrock for our second part. Designing for what pretty much feels like infinite scale. And this means you've got to stop thinking about single, super powerful machines. And oh man, this slide just perfectly illustrates the two ways to scale. Scaling vertically, that's like trying to solve a traffic jam by buying a bigger and bigger bus. Eventually, you literally just can't build a bigger bus. But scaling horizontally, that's the cloud-native way, is like adding hundreds of regular-sized buses to the road. There's basically no limit to how many you can add. So here's the crucial question. How do you make that whole fleet of buses work together smoothly? Well, the answer is one word: statelessness. A stateless application treats every single request like it's a brand new interaction. And what this means is that any server in your fleet can handle any user's request at any time, because no single server is clinging on to critical session data. This is the absolute key, the secret sauce that unlocks true horizontal scaling. And here's what that looks like in action. A user makes a request. It doesn't go to one specific server. Instead, it hits a load balancer. Just think of the load balancer as this incredibly smart traffic cop. It sees all the available servers and just directs the request to one that's free and ready to work. It's a simple idea, but it's an incredibly powerful system for spreading out the work seamlessly. All right, our next section introduces a concept that I gotta admit might feel a little strange at first. It's the second huge mindset shift. You have to stop trying to prevent failure, and instead, you start designing for it. You architect for the reality that sooner or later, things will fail. This quote really just nails the goal. High availability isn't about having parts that never ever break. It's about building a system that's so resilient that when a single component does break, and trust me, it will, the system as a whole just keeps on running without even missing a beat. This slide is just a brilliant illustration of something called loose coupling. Okay, look at that top diagram. That's a tightly coupled system. It's like a line of dominoes. If controller A fails, the whole chain breaks, right? Now, look at the bottom diagram. That system uses message queues, kind of like buffers. So now if controller B fails, controller A can still put its work into the queue. The failure is totally isolated. And when B comes back online, it just picks up right where it left off. The system as a whole just keeps on working. So how do we actually make this happen? Well, there are a few key techniques. First, you have well-defined APIs that act like a formal contract for how services talk to each other. Second, you use asynchronous methods, like those message queues we just saw, which let services communicate without having to wait around for each other. And third, you have service discovery, which is basically an automatic address book, so services can find each other on the fly without having their locations hard-coded. And really, what this all boils down to is one word: redundancy. You want to go through your system and systematically hunt down and eliminate any single point of failure. If a component is critical, it absolutely needs a backup. or maybe even several backups, ready to take over instantly and automatically. All right, our final section covers the third big mindset shift, building smarter, not harder. This is all about using the cloud platform itself to get rid of all that undifferentiated heavy lifting. All the generic, boring tasks that don't actually add any unique value to your business. This quote from the source material gets right to the heart of it. The cloud isn't just a pile of virtual servers. It's this incredibly rich portfolio of managed services, things like databases, message queues, content delivery networks that you can just assemble like building blocks. The mantra totally becomes services, not servers. And just look at the impact here. The tasks on the left, manual patching, scaling by hand, complicated database administration, that stuff is so time-consuming and super error-prone. By using managed services, all those responsibilities shift over to the cloud provider, and that frees up your engineers to focus on what actually makes your application special and unique. Building smarter also means building for cost efficiency, and this isn't some afterthought. It has to be a core principle of your architecture. This means constantly right-sizing your resources so you're not paying for power you don't need. It means using elasticity to automatically scale down when traffic is low. And it means taking advantage of different purchasing options, like committing to usage up front to get some seriously deep discounts. So let's just quickly recap the 3 powerful mindset shifts we've covered. First, you design for nearly infinite horizontal scale, not for big individual servers. Second, you stop trying to prevent failure and instead you build resilient systems that expect it to happen. And third, you stop building everything from scratch and you start composing managed services to build smarter. And that really leaves us with the final thought. This isn't just some technical exercise. Adopting this mindset fundamentally changes what's even possible. It just removes all those old constraints and opens up totally new ways to innovate. So the real question, the one I want to leave you with, is this. If you're freed from the old way of working, what amazing things are you going to build next?